I'm Robin Holmes, a freshwater ecologist at the Cawthron Institute. I'm going to lift the lid on river health. What do we mean by river health, and how does this term help us manage rivers better? Well, it's a metaphor based in human medicine, but can a river really be alive? And if it's not alive, can it really be healthy? Well, depending on your view of the world, a river can very much be alive. If your ancestors have been part of Aotearoa for the last 800 years or so, maybe for you the river is an ancestor. The tears of Ranganui, the lifeblood of Papatūānuku. From this lens, maybe the metaphor isn't too far off the mark. But let's start with the biophysical side of things, because as a scientist I'm more comfortable with exploring the quantifiable stuff. So first, what does a river look like in a healthy state? Well, all you need to do is take a short trip into the Old Growth National Park. The rivers here generally have beds made up of coarse gravel and cobbles with lots of spaces between them, for all sorts of small fish and invertebrates to occupy. Big chunks of fallen trees are lodged in the river, and these provide habitat for large fish. There's lots of overhanging vegetation which shades the river and keeps it cool, and also provides leaf litter and insects to fuel the system. Also, the river's flow regime probably fluctuates widely, kind of like an irregular heartbeat. So what happens when we develop the land? Well, there's huge economic benefits, so that's great, but there's also ecological consequences. First, we need to clear out all the floodplain vegetation, and this reduces the supply of leaf litter and insects. In its place is a whole lot more sunlight, and this stimulates algal growth, which now becomes the dominant food base for the system. From a human health perspective, this is kind of like replacing a diet of low GI whole grain and meat with white bread and corn syrup. Then we need to take water out of the river to irrigate the land. Sometimes we take the peaks of small floods to fill storage dams, and so this can reduce the frequency that a river flushes itself clean. Fine sediment can start building up in all the wrong places, like the gaps between the stones where the invertebrates and small fish live. And what about all the extra nutrients from all the animals in the floodplain? Well, some nutrients in the river is possibly a good thing, but just like a human, if you have too much of a good thing, things can turn pear-shaped pretty quick. So there's us ecologists, we're mucking around in creeks, trying our hardest to make sense of these complicated systems. But this is just one form of knowledge. Anybody who has anything to do with rivers intuitively forms their own perception of what a healthy river is. A common way people view river health is by how well a river might provide them with what they need. The social science term for this is ecosystem services. These services might be clean drinking water, plentiful mahinga kai, maybe a nice place just to walk your dog. There's more intangible stuff as well you might get from connecting with your culture through practicing a traditional food gathering method, like setting a hinaki. I'm a little uncomfortable with calling this an ecosystem service, but you get the picture. Where I'm going here is that, well, a healthy river provides more ecosystem services for more people. By the definition of river health that we endorse, human values are part of river health because humans are part of the ecosystem. So how's this term going to help us manage rivers better? Well, think of it like a spectrum, and this is a starting point for people to explore how they value rivers and where people would like to see a river sit along that spectrum. A frontier of applied river ecology at the moment is figuring out ways to quantify river health and how these measurable components relate to human values and ecosystem services. There's structural measures like the composition of the invertebrate community. There's also functional measures like leaf decomposition rates that indicate what the microbiology in the system is up to. Then there's measures that directly relate to human values like fish. We can quantify those as well. There is a lot more, and we can benchmark these measures against our best guess of what the river system was like in its natural state, or maybe relative to the values that people want the river to provide them. This is a lot easier said than done, and combining these metrics into a digestible amount of information is really difficult, so bear with us and learn with us. But this is really important, because degrading or rehabilitating an ecosystem can play out over generational timescales. Quantitative ecosystem health measures can give us some fine-scale feedback within our lifetimes, so that we know what trajectory the river is on, and we can adjust our behaviour accordingly to set that river on the right path for future generations. So sorry if I haven't provided you with a black and white explanation of river health. That's because there isn't one. Ecosystems have fuzzy boundaries everywhere you look, so the only terms capable of describing them have to retain a degree of ambiguity, something that science and managers really struggle with. But I hope I have convinced you that the concept of river health is useful to build sympathy for rivers and empathy for the people they support. So thinking about river health can help balance our economy with the preservation or even creation of natural capital. At the very least, putting pins on the river health continuum gives good grist to our democratic mill to help manage these things better. So if you want to dig a little deeper, check out the River Health Report at cawthron.org.nz.